Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Today I will be discussing the Unit 6 Economic System and the Resource Management, Traditional Livelihood and the Resource Management in the Philippines. So, when we look at indigenous practices, there is a pervasive tendency to label them as primitive or outdated. However, as anthropologists, we look for the functional logic behind what outsiders mislabel as tradition. If we shift our perspective, we discover that these communities are practitioners of advanced ecological management systems that often outperform modern industrial methods. Consider this culture shock to your typical worldview. The Philippines is global megadiverse hotspot, the Amazons of the seas. Yet, a staggering 85% of the country's key biodiversity areas overlap perfectly with ancestral domains. The so what of this data is profound. These pristine landscapes are not accidental wilderness. They are socially constructed environments curated by indigenous labor and wisdom. Indigenous peoples are not merely residents of the forest. They are the primary reason this essential ecosystem exists. To understand how they do it, we must look at the specific high level engineering found in their local landscape. My question to you, my fellow learners, are traditional livelihood just primitive or relic of the past? Traditional livelihoods in the Philippines are sophisticated survival system governed by customary law, managing resources sustainably. These practices such as Ifugao Muyong woodlots demonstrate advanced ecological management, often exceeding modern engineering, focus on long-term resilience over profit, utilizing diversified farming methods like the Hanunuo Mangyan Sweden system to withstand cultural disaster and climates. First, the mountains, uplands, or the Ifugao Muyong system. A muyong is a privately managed forest by an Ifugao clan, supporting the rice terraces by absorbing rainwater and providing springs during the dry season. It enriches the soils with nutrients from decaying leaves, fertilizing crops naturally. So the dense canopy and deep roots prevent soil erosion and landslide, while ancestral laws ensure its sustainable harvesting, maintaining ecosystem balance. So, the nutrient cycle or the natural fertilization. The catchment. As you can see in the picture, the catchment is the forest floor, collects leaves and organic trash that rot into rich compost. Next is the delivery. When it rains, water wash through this compost, turn into a nutrient soup. And last is the deposit. So this water flows down into the terraces, depositing minerals and organic matter directly to rice stock. Next is the lowland or forest, Hanunuo Mangyan Sweden farming. Hanunuo mangyans within farming or kaingin is a traditional rotational farming method used by the Hanunuo Mangyan people of Mindoro. Unlike modern farming, this system involves clearing a small forest area for a few years, then moving to a new plot to allow original area to regenerate. So it reflects an organized ancestral lifestyle that views the forest as a rotating garden rather than a permanent field. Correcting the slash and burn misconception. The Hanunuo Mangyan practice a rotational method of land clearing that counters the misconception of permanent deforestation. Key aspects include first, selective clearing. They only clear small plots, preserving the surrounding mother forest for seed regrowth. Second, controlled burns. So they create fire breaks to contain fires to intended areas. And third is nutrient use. So fires convert biomass into ash, serving as a natural fertilizer for crops. Third is the follow system, the secret to regeneration. So the most critical part of their system is the follow period. So which is a long rest phase for the land. So after farming a plot for about 2 to 3 years, the soil begins to lose its nutrients. So instead of forcing it to produce more, the Mangyan moved to a different area and let the old plot rest for 7 to 15 years. Recolonization. So the seed and surrounding forest blow in. So the grass and shrubs begin to cover the bare soil, protecting it from erosion. Second, nutrient recovery. Fast-growing pioneer trees grow, their deep roots pulling minerals from deep underground back to the surface. And third is biomass accumulation. As these plants grow and drop leaves, they create a new layer of organic matter, essentially recharging the soil's battery for the next generation. And last is the coastal marine or the Tagbanwa and Sama Bajau. So the Panyen as sacred marine sanctuary. The Tagbanwa people of Palawan regard Panyen's sacred marine areas like coral reefs and sacred and shipwrecks as home to powerful spirits. So these sites act as a traditional marine protected areas or EMPAS. So where fishing is forbidden, promoting fish maturity and reproduction, and this spiritual approach ensures a sustainable food supply for the community by allowing fish to spill into surrounding areas where fishing is permitted. So the Sama Bajau marine nomadism to prevent overfishing is often called the sea nomads. So utilize a strategy of constant movement across the Sulu and Celebes seas. Unlike land-based cultures that stay in one spot until the resources are gone, the Bajau lifestyle is built-in conservation tool. First, rotation of fishing grounds. By leaving the houseboats or lipa-lipa and moving with the tides and seasons, they ensure that no single coral reefs is ever over-harvested. Second, following the fish. Their nomadism is a response to the ocean's natural rhythms. When fish population in one area thin out, the Bajau move to a different reef, giving the previous site months or even years to recover. And third is low impact gear. So traditional Bajau fishing relies on skin diving and spear fishing rather than massive nets. So this targeted approach means they only take what they need, leaving the rest of the reef ecosystem intact. So these are the Sama Badchow marine nomadism to prevent overfishing, and this is the modern challenges we face to safeguard and the legal safeguard, no? So that Indigenous Peoples Rights Act or the IPRA law of 1997 or the RA 8371 is a landmark Philippine law. So that recognizes the right of indigenous groups to own their traditional lands. The most powerful tool within this law is the Certificate of Ancestral Domain or CADT. So what is CADT? So a CADT is a formal legal title issued by the Philippine government that recognizes an indigenous community's ownership over a specific territory. This includes not just the land, but also the bodies of water, forests, and natural resources within it. So the CADT serve as a legal shield for indigenous practices protecting traditional livelihoods like Ifugao, Muyong, Muyong system, Mangyan Sweden farming, and Tagbanwa fishing from outside interferences. So key protection includes first, right to exclude. Communities can prevent harmful activities such as mining and logging that threaten their resources. Second, self-governance. Tribes can enforce their customary laws, including designating sacred areas off limits to commercial fishers. And third is sustainable management. The community develops an ancestral sustainable development and protection plan or the ADSDPP to prioritize traditional methods over harmful industrial practices. Next is the corporate mining and large scale logging. So the primary threat to indigenous land arises from extractive industries, particularly corporate mining and large-scale logging. So practices like mountaintop removal, as you can see in the picture, destroy vital forests such as Muyong and sacred peaks of the Mangyan. So this deforestation disrupts the nutrient cycle, leading to soil erosion, siltation in rice terraces, and damage to coastal reefs. So climate change and planting calendar. So indigenous farming relies on traditional calendars aligned with natural science, but climate change is disrupting these systems. Key challenges includes unpredictable rains affecting the Hanuno o Mangyan-Suden cycle, more intense typhoon causing landslide, overwhelming forest resilience, and third is rising temperatures drying out nutrients in rice terraces, leading to lower yields and food insecurity. Next is the displacement of the indigenous due to green grabbing. So ironically, some of the biggest threats come from well-meaning but misguided conservation efforts known as green grabbing. So this happens when the government or international NGOs or non-governmental offices declared an area protected park. So and banned all human activities, including indigenous practices. So first is exclusionary conservation. So by labeling the Tagbanwa or Mangyan as squatters in their own homes, these projects ignore that the forest only exists because of indigenous management. Second is loss of guardianship. When the people are removed, there is no one left to stop illegal loggers or poachers. So often leading to faster environmental decline than in the indigenous community had remained. So the future, indigenous voices in national policy. For the Philippines to achieve sustainable development, indigenous voices should central to national policy. So key integrations of traditional ecological knowledge or tech include first co-management. Tagbanwas Panyen are more effective than government-run marine protected areas. Second, climate resilience. Mangyan planting calendars and Ifuga forest management should inform national climate adaptation plans. And third is legal empowerment. The IPRA law and CADTs must take precedence over short-term mining permits to protect natural resources. And that's all for my reporting. Thank you very much.